A nicely plated small entree is a great way to start a meal, and they're actually easier to put together than you think. In today's video, we're going to make a roasted red capsicum, asparagus and halloumi cheese entree from scratch. The great thing about this entree is that the red pepper component can be used in many dishes. So if you already have a batch in your fridge, you can have the entire entree plated and ready to go in less than 20 minutes. Let's get straight into preparing the red pepper sauce. Capsicums, also known as bell peppers or sweet peppers, are one of my favourite vegetables. Their vibrant colours and delicious flavour, either cooked or raw, is just delectable. So no wonder I love this spread, dip, sauce, whatever you'd like to call it. I'm cutting these a bit smaller to roast. Make sure you remove the excess white bits and seeds from the inside. If you leave them in, they can make your sauce bitter. If you're short on time or capsicums aren't in season, you can skip this step entirely and just use some bottled roasted red peppers. I'm also going to add some onion, garlic and fresh thyme. If it looks this good going into the oven, it's bound to taste good coming out. Then of course, a sprinkle of salt and a drizzle of oil. Roasted in the oven at about 180 degrees Celsius, 360 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes or until it's just starting to colour on the edges. Do you know how good it smells in here right now? I'm instantly hungry. I'm going to add this straight into my mini blender. If any of your onions are burnt a bit too much, which does happen, just remove them. A little colour is fine, but too much will make your sauce bitter. I'm also going to add some freshly picked parsley from my garden. It adds a bit of subtle flavour, but also some lovely colour. I'm chopping mine to give my little blender a helping hand. Then I'm going to add a squirt of Worcestershire sauce and some melted butter. Give it a good mix around. I'm not aiming for a super smooth sauce here, but I don't want large chunks left in there. It's time to have a look and a taste. That needs a little sweetness, so I'll add about a teaspoon of sugar, and I want to thin it down a little more. Oil will work best for this, and I've actually got some leftover sun-dried tomato oil. Nothing goes to waste around here. This sauce dip spread can be used in so many different ways. You can pour it over some cooked pasta or meatballs for a quick meal, or you can let it set in the fridge and use it as a dip with some crackers or bread. Or you can even add it to a salad dressing for some extra punch. Anyway, today we're going to use it as a sauce component for our entree. By the way, if you haven't signed up to my newsletter, you'll find a link under the like button. I find it's a great way for me to share other ideas with you. Let's prepare the asparagus. It's good to snap off the end and get rid of the woody bit. I usually just do it on one and then cut the same amount off all the spears to get them all the same size. If you like vibrant green asparagus, always blanch it. All you need to do is pop it into a pot of boiling water for a minute or two and then put it straight into some iced water. This stops the cooking process and sets the beautiful green colour. A green, slightly crunchy spear of asparagus is pretty hard to beat, isn't it? Here's the halloumi cheese. Have you ever used it before? Its texture is often described as squeaky, and since it has a high melting point, it's perfect for grilling or frying. Look how it holds its shape and colours up beautifully. I'd like to have the asparagus hot, so I'm just going to put it into my hot pan for a few minutes to heat through. For garnishing today, I've got some black sesame seeds. I could use them just like this, but I thought I'd crush them a little with a mortar and pestle. Notice how shiny they've become as the natural oil is released by crushing. So all the components are ready and I think we're ready to plate. If your sauce has started to set, you can easily warm it a little to thin it again. This red pepper sauce is probably a bit thick to squirt nicely from a bottle, but hey, let's give it a go anyway. Here goes. Like I said, it's really a bit too thick, but it works for an abstract looking plate in its own way. To create a little height, I'm stacking the asparagus in a double layer, keeping the spear heads on top as they look better with their fantastic natural texture. Notice for consistency, they're all pointing the same way. I'm going to fan the halloumi, but why? Well, if I just put them side by side with the edges touching, it would look odd. And if I piled them up in a tall stack, that would look odd too. So fanning them out looks pleasing and adds another layer of intrigue to the plate. To finish this off, I'm going to add a sprinkle of sesame seeds and a few leafy garnishes. Within this abstract design, there is some structure and repetition, so I'm continuing that by plating the seeds on the same side of each line of sauce. I'm also adding a single snow pea shoot on each line of sauce to keep it consistent. What do you think of this simple entree? It's quick to put together, looks great, and would be the perfect start to a meal, wouldn't it? Let's try another plating option. This time I'm using a black plate and I'm going to splat the sauce on. This is often a good way to plate a thicker, coarser sauce. I like the thinner splat lines, so I'm going to leave them visible and put the asparagus down in the pool of sauce. This time I'm going to put the halloumi in the middle, still overlapping it a little, and then finish with the rest of the asparagus spear heads. I'm piling them up to give it some height and visual appeal. Then I'll add the leafy salad greens and lastly the sesame seeds. This is an interesting problem because black sesame seeds wouldn't be my go-to with a black plate. But let's see what it's going to look like anyway. The way you improve your plating is by trying things and experimenting. Sometimes you might be surprised by what you come up with. Do you like the subtle texture the black seeds create on the plate? And the stark contrast they create on the halloumi? Or do you think toasted white sesame seeds would have worked better? Talking about texture, have you ever tried making a savoury tuile to create texture on an entree or main plate? If you haven't, have a look at this video here, where we make a parmesan tuile and use it to garnish a fine dining inspired entree. See you over there.